Hi, I'm Dan and welcome to the Airbrush Garage. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, thanks for coming back. So today I'm going to talk about color saturation, what it is and what you can do with it. So with that, if you like this type of content, please consider subscribing. Please check out my Amazon affiliate links down below. With that, let's get started. All right, before we get started and load up the airbrush with some paint, I'd like to explain a few basics of color to you. So before we get started, I want you to know that there are three primary colors: red, yellow, and blue. Now, if you were to mix any of the two primary colors together, you would get a secondary color. So now what we're going to be talking about today is saturating a color. Now, I used to always think that saturation of a color meant taking a color and adding its complement to it, which we'll talk about in a minute, and that was saturating the color. I had it backwards. A color in its full color or brilliance is already fully saturated. When you add the complement to the color, it desaturates the color. And when you do that, the more you add the complement to, it moves it more towards gray. Okay, now, with that said about that, the primary colors, mixing two of them together, you get your secondary colors. I'm going to be showing you also a color wheel. And if you don't have a color wheel yet, I recommend that you get one. And they're very inexpensive. They're only a few dollars. You can pick them up at any art store or online. But as you see on the color wheel, you have red, yellow, and blue, which are your primary colors. And this color wheel will show you on this side that if you were to take a primary color and mix it with another color, like your primary color of red, and you mix it with yellow, you're going to get orange. Same thing, let's see, you got yellow, primary color, and you're going to mix it with blue, you get green. So this is a very handy tool. Now, we're going to be talking today more about the complements of those colors. So on the back of this color wheel, it also shows you a series of arrows. We're only going to be dealing with one arrow on this color wheel today, one that shows you the direct complement of a color. So in this case, red, okay, the direct complement to red is green. Okay, so if you had red in your brush and you wanted to desaturate that color, because I talk about too in some of my, when I'm doing portraits, I don't like to use straight black a lot for shadowing. What I'll do is I'll take that color or that skin tone, whatever I'm using, and I'll desaturate it, okay? And I'll dull it down basically and use it for a shadow instead of straight black. I do that a lot. So with these basic color concepts in mind, we're gonna load up the airbrush. I'm gonna show you how it works. All right, so what we're gonna start off with is I'm gonna show you how mixing two primary colors makes a secondary color. In this case, we are going to take from the color wheel blue and yellow, and we're going to make green. Now, keep in mind, blue is a very strong color. It's going to take a lot more yellow than it is blue to make green. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some yellow in our cup. I'm going to add some reducer so we have something to mix with. And I'm going to start adding 1 drop of blue, just because, like I said, it's a very strong color. The primary colors are strong. Let's see if I mix this up right here. You can see it's starting to turn green already. That's a nice little shade of green. So again, that was probably about 10 drops of yellow and 1 drop of blue. So, you know, just to give you a ratio. So if you want it a little darker, you can add, let's just add 1 more drop of blue. Now you just got to be careful because again, it's such a strong color, it can start taking on a blue shift. I just darkened it up a little bit. Got a nice shade of green there. So Now remember, this color is fully saturated right now. It is at its most or fullest intensity. Once you start adding the complement to it, it's going to desaturate it. So in this case, if you come over to your color wheel, now that we got green, and you point your arrow to green, okay, the complement is red. Now, like blue, red is a very strong color. So you must be very careful with adding to it. I'm going to go add 1 drop. And now you can see already, it's still green, but it's taken more on like a moss green. And that's with 1 drop of red. So now we're starting to desaturate that color. So we took it from its fullest intensity, and now we're going to draw it down towards the darker shade or gray of the color. To take it 1 step further, we'll add 1 more drop of red. Now we're really pushing towards that gray. And that's pretty desaturated. So that would be something where I would start working or keep saturating a color to work more towards that shadow that I like to use. Again, I do use black for shadows, but I do like to desaturate colors also to blend in my tones. So let's load up the brush and see how it works. All right, so I got my gun loaded up with some yellow this time. I'm going to show you the yellow on the board, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to start adding some violet to complement to yellow, and we're going to start desaturating that color. Okay, here we go. All right, so there we have it, a nice bright yellow. So now we're going to add its complement, and I got some Wicked Violet here, and we're going to add 1 drop. Now, by adding a drop of violet to our yellow, we should start pushing more towards these colors right here. So now what you can see is what I did was I layered over the most saturated color of the yellow, and I layered over the now starting to be desaturated color, so you can see the difference in the tonal values. So let's take it another step further. Let's add another drop. And right now, if you could see in my cup, which I know you can't, it looks very brown. But when I paint it here, it doesn't look all that brown. I mean, it's heading towards that direction, but it looks a lot more brown in my cup. So that's the other thing too. I'd like to give you a little piece of advice. A lot of times, the color that it looks like inside or when you're mixing the paint in your cup, believe it or not, when you spray it on your surface, does take on a little bit of a different effect or look or hue. So you definitely want to always, do a little test piece on the side before you hit your canvas with it. Okay, so now it's our second drop in desaturation. We have 1 tone here. We have the second tone right here, layered over. We have the next tone here, layered over that. And then now, this is where we're at. I'm going to take it down 1 more notch. That's 1 more drop. Now, the other thing you got to be careful too is you're losing paint in your cup and you're adding such a strong color, okay? That is going to play a part too. So I like to actually mix up enough or have enough in my cup of my base first before I start adding drops, because you know, if you had a half a cup full of yellow and you start adding, you know, that drop to it, and then all of a sudden you keep spraying, you have a quarter cup, now you're adding another drop, it, you know, it really does have an effect. So there you have it. There's a good example of taking a color of yellow and shifting it or desaturating it all the way down to pretty well, you know, probably not going to get it much more saturated than that. All right, so we have this pretty well saturated down pretty far. I did add 2 more drops of the violet just to see if we could push it a little further. So as you can see here, it's starting to take more on of a purplish hue. So what happens is, once you desaturate it down past where you got your complement for your yellow, you are going to start bringing up the more purple values. Okay, you'll start overtaking the yellow desaturation and start coming back up towards your violet. And just to demonstrate that, I added about 3 or 4 drops of violet to my mix. And here we go. So that's really cool. So there you go. So what that did now is that pushed it past the desaturation of the yellow and starts pushing it now up towards your violet. Okay, now what's really cool about this, and you can see it over there in the Driscoll tone video that I have, but when you layer this on top of, say, your skin tone, it's a really nice skin tone, probably right in around there. Okay, and all I did by getting that skin tone was taking that yellow and desaturating it down. But if I was going to do a skin tone, I kind of really like that right in here. Okay, so now taking the violet and layering it over, you see how that just deepens up and darkens up those tones, say for your skin tones. And that's why I was trying to, and that's why I tell you, like, a lot of times if I want to do a shadow on, say, a portrait where I got a skin tone, I just keep desaturating the color till I get it into its darkest tone that I can get it, which would be like right in around here. And I much prefer to rather use that than straight black a lot of times. Well, there you have it. I hope you learned something today about saturation and desaturation and how you can maybe apply it to your artwork. Give it a try. Get yourself a canvas like this. Play around with some colors. It's really going to improve your artwork and help push it to that next level. Understanding color isn't easy, but start with the basics. Take it one step at a time. It's going to take you a little while to really get into, and it all depends on how far you really want to get into color theory. But learning some basic color theory is going to take you at least some of the way. It's going to help you out a lot. So with that, I hope you like this video. If you do, please consider subscribing. Give me a thumbs up. Give me some comments, good or bad. It really helps this channel with the YouTube algorithm and help grow this channel. I really appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the next video.